Hi, Coni Meyers here with Kickbutt Leadership and my co-host.
Kim White with the My Sexy Business Team.
Well, what a wonderful 3 days it has been. And I just appreciate everybody coming on and watching. And I'm sure you've gotten a lot of really, really good information out there. The Kickbutt Leadership, this was the third one I've done, and I can't wait to do the next one. But first, let's talk about who we had on today. And the first person we had on was Tammy Bonnell from Exit Realty International. She's the CEO for them. And what a powerhouse of a woman she is.
Yeah.
I absolutely love the culture that Exit Realty has. And it's all about giving back. It's all about being of service. When they have new broker owners come, they spend their first day all about mindfulness and all about being in the right mindset. So they speak my kickbutt language.
But they also speak my language because it was all about serving and loving and, making sure someone's the right fit. And there was so much that she said. And I want to say, my heart goes out to her because it's a much more recent thing for her. But her son just passed. And she's already putting together a nonprofit. She's already doing something to celebrate him and to celebrate his life. And I just, if you're watching, I'm so proud of you because that is a place that is very difficult to get up from. She's a true leader, and she demonstrates that leadership by getting up and still serving 30,000 in her company, 30,000 people.
Right. And I love the fact that she talked about how they have a program where the agents get residual income. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the agents actually take those and have nonprofits they've started or things they're doing to serve back to the community. So that's
they're leading
amazing.
For sure by example.
Exactly. Yeah. And then my second guest was my co-host here, Kim White. And she brought up something before we came on live that I always do. And I didn't ask her. So while we're in this wrap up, I'm going to ask her, were you a leader as a child?
I just got tickled when you didn't ask me because I'm telling you, from the time I was probably 3, I was bossing everybody that would stand still around. I had a grocery store, which was all my nanny's canned goods, and I had a play cash register, and I was telling them all they had to buy stuff, and I was going through that, and then I had a baby on my hip, and I was cooking, and I mean, it was so funny to think back because you brought me back to a memory of how I would line everybody up, and I would teach them in school. I owned the grocery store, and I was cooking and holding a baby, and I thought that sums me up at 51 in a huge way.
So definitely Kim was a leader at 3 or 4 years old, and look at her now. So I can just see you at 3 or 4 years old with your being a kickbutt leader and saying, you got to buy this and you got to buy that.
This is what you need to eat. If this is what you need to wear, and this is what you need to do.
Oh my goodness. That's really, really funny.
My cousins probably are like not as thrilled about my memory as I was.
Well, then we had Valerie Garcia. And I had her on because she so impressed me with her message at an event I was at called Woman Up. And she really spoke to me. As a matter of fact, I took lots of notes with all the speakers. I mean, I was running out of paper because I was taking notes, but she had a program she did called, if I get this right now, She Said, He Said. And it really touched about how people communicate with one another. And she goes around now teaching a lot about bravery. And she's a speaker. She was just a dynamo. And I loved her message about how we should speak to one another and how sometimes we don't hear one another the way that the words are coming across. So it's important for us to make sure that our words are what somebody else is going to hear. Because sometimes the way I speak and the way Kim speaks is going to be different. And if I don't,
most of the time.
And if I don't speak in princess, then she may not hear really what I'm trying to say. And I think that was a really good message. She also talked about the fact that as women, we speak totally different than the way men speak. And we need to step up our game.
Well, we're wired. She was talking about we are wired from the time we're little. Women need to be nice and they need to be pretty, and men need to be strong and like adventurous, and and it's like we are trained from the time we're little. This is acceptable behavior and this is not.
Exactly.
And we don't want to be seen as the B word she was saying, and so we'll pull back and be less than what we really are because we don't want to be seen that way, when we need to step up and be nice but be who we really are.
Exactly. Own our strengths. And then we had Laura Moralio, and I've known Laura for years. She is the education director for the California Association of Realtors. I've worked with her closely for many years, and I've always been impressed with Laura because she's very project oriented, but she's also, her background is in marketing. So you really get the best of all worlds in her leadership when it comes. And she really has been a driving force in bringing really great courses to the California Association for their members. And she's always concerned about what the members, what kind of material and information they're going to receive.
She's a great leader in that position because she really is thinking about everybody. She's like even though she's marketing and project, brilliant, she also is all about the people.
All about the people.
I love it. She's amazing.
I liked when she was talking about when the members will call up and she has to explain to her team that you have to remember that they're calling from their car. So yes, they could go onto the website, they could find the course they want to take, but they're real estate agents. They're busy. They're in their cars probably 80% of the time. And so they're calling CAR or to be able to find a course they want to take. And the team members at CAR need to understand that they're not just being lazy. It's just that they're busy and they're in their vehicles, and it's much easier for them to call them. And I think that's a good important point for anybody in any kind of business. If you really take a look at who your client is, or your customer is, or your membership is, and you figure out, okay, what is it the best way that we can serve those individuals? And then make sure that the team that you have is answering those needs. That's a Kickbutt leader right there.
Yes, she definitely is.
Yeah. And then we had lovely Samantha McConnell. And the reason I asked Samantha, she was on the Hope to Hope with Kim. And I'm listening to her, and she's talking about her health bites and thriving with health. And I'm thinking, in order to be a really good Kickbutt leader, you really need to be aware of, emotional intelligence is about being aware of ourselves and being aware of others. And we need to be aware of how we are presenting ourselves, whether we have a big team, a little team, maybe the team is somebody that's outside of our actual core business, but how we are presenting ourselves when it comes to health. And also, in order to be a really good Kickbutt leader, you have to be able to know how to breathe. You have to know how to exercise properly. And how can you incorporate those things? She talked a lot about how you could incorporate exercise into your workday.
And not make it any longer.
Exactly. And that really is the secret to being a Kickbutt leader. Everything that we talk about in the course is not about adding more things you have to do to your day.
No, and she also talked about legacy. She had found a definition of it being an ambassador. And I thought that is really what we should be thinking about. How are we ambassadors for what it is we do? What are we doing as an ambassador to change the world with our influence in what position we have? We all are in different positions for a reason.
Exactly.
So how are you using your ambassador, badge to go out and change the world, which will be your legacy? That will be your legacy. Hers is health, but that was just a brilliant definition for legacy.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to think about legacy as a Kickbutt leader, because legacy is how are you going to leave, whether it's your company, whether you retire, you sell the company, or if you're in a business and in your position, how are you going to leave that better than when you found it? And as a Kickbutt leader, you really need to be able to define what that legacy is going to look like. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Well, and I think, just like being transparent with this, I have been behind the scenes with the Kickbutt leadership course, and I have been part of the helping put it together. I didn't put it together. I didn't do the work, but I've been part of the support. And I asked for Ms. Coni to give us the names of the modules because that's her legacy. This is a legacy she's leaving of leadership. She's an ambassador for Kickbutt leaders. She's an ambassador for people who need to level up in their leadership, who want to have amazing teams to work with, and who want to have amazing people surrounding them, and who want to make more money in their business, and not just real estate. Like, she's very connected in the real estate world, but not just in real estate. A Kickbutt leader is in every industry.
Exactly.
In every arena. And so I asked her if she would tell the titles and a quick summary of what they are about, because I don't think, if you haven't been part of the course, like you haven't been part of the backstory of it, I don't think that you all have had a good picture of the awesome sauce that went into this course. So anyway, I asked her to tell that so that she could, give you all understanding of what she's even launching. This is a big deal. I don't mean to take over, but I also want to make sure everyone knows this is a launch. She's done 2 of these conferences with people who were Kickbutt leaders, but this is the launch of her course. This is the actual, here it's available. And so this has been a lot of years coming, a lot of work, thousands of hours of work coming to fruition. So I don't want to skip over this part because it's too important.
Well, I think, and let me kind of just say why it came to be in the first place. I really felt that after being asked to do some retreats in leadership, that there was a missing link. There was a missing link about, there's lots of stuff out there about being mindful in your business, and but there's so many studies and so many things out there, and they all touch on something a little bit different. So I wanted to put together something where it was a one course with modules in it that touch on all the different aspects of leadership. Because you got courses out there that cover 1 or 2, but there's not a course out there that covers all of the different aspects. So that's why that we know of. Yeah, that didn't cover everything. So that's the reason and the premise behind me actually wanting to put the course together in the first place. So the first module is on assessment. You really, before you can do anything, you need to know where you are right now. So that's really about assessment, and it shows you, it has a questionnaire, and you go through that, and it has you do some analysis of who you are, and then it talks about anchoring. So how to anchor when you get ready to do a change, or when you're starting to adopt some of these new mindfulness practices. The second one is about happiness versus success, and that's really to address so many of us say, if I just work a little harder, I'll be successful, and then I'll be happy. Well, in reality, you have to be happy to be able to be successful in the first place. Mm-hmm. So I take you through, in happiness versus success, I take you through some of the scientific science behind it, but also who are you, and how are you looking at happiness, and how are you looking at success? I mean, there's proof out there that we can enhance our brains by coming from happiness and create a life and be more creative and be more productive. So that module really goes pretty deep into what you have to look at to be coming from happiness instead of trying to do it the other way around, because it doesn't work. The third module is success versus failure. And I always say, and you heard it a lot from a lot of people, failure to me is just nothing but a course correction. And we have to have those failures because there's a lesson in there that we need to learn to be able to take us on to the next level. And then we have emotional intelligence. And the whole term emotional intelligence was actually the name of a book in 1995 by Daniel Goleman. But it spurred an entire industry. There's a whole industry out there all around emotional intelligence now. And companies are now doing what they call EQ testing more so than IQ testing, because they've discovered it's more important to know how somebody's going to handle something emotionally. And what emotional intelligence is the ability to manage your own emotions and the emotions of others and being aware. So this really goes into and it analyzes who you are, where you are in your emotional intelligence, what you can do to, if there's areas of improvement. We talk about negativity, all that kind of thing. So emotional intelligence is a really key component to being a really good Kickbutt leader, because you definitely need to know where you are in those areas and how to help other people when there's emotions involved. And then the fifth module is mindfulness leadership thinking. And this is where I talk about all the different tools and why it's important. I called it Kickbutt because when I say mindfulness, some people's heads roll and their eyes go like this. And it's like, so I called it Kickbutt because it's really about stepping up your game as a leader and really stepping into who you are as a leader and making sure that you're doing all the things you can do to be an excellent, great leader. As a matter of fact, it has been proven now that if you want to be a great leader, you need to be doing mindfulness practices. If you want to be an okay leader, you can continue to do what you're doing. But if you want to be a great leader, you need to learn how to incorporate these practices. And they're simple. There's nothing difficult about them. Things like breathing and meditation while you're walking or while you're driving. Those are the kinds of things that make all the difference in the world. And then there's purpose and vision and what I call sensorizing. So we need to know why we were put on this earth in the first place. As a Kickbutt leader, you need to understand your purpose of who you are personally. And then you can figure out what your purpose is professionally and as a leader. And when you understand your purpose, then you can create a vision for what your team is going to look like, if you're starting a business or if you have a business, really what you want that business to look like. And from that vision, you can then, what I call sensorize, you can step into it. What does it smell like, taste like, sound like? When you walk out the door, what does it look like when you're walking out the door? What books are you reading? Those kinds of things. So you put yourself in your vision, and that way you come from it rather than trying to go to it. Goals are, once you have your vision, goals are the braces. If you are building a bridge, the goals are the braces of you building that bridge from your vision. So in that chapter, we do a lot of work on, you create your vision, you figure out your purpose. And I narrowed it all the way down to you personally, you professionally, your team. What does that team look like all together? And you can even narrow it down to a project. So what's the vision for the project? And it eliminates all kinds of problems. Then we have buy-in and delegation. And for many of us, that's a difficult thing. Sometimes delegating can be a bit of a problem. I know it was for me for a long time until I figured it out. But we also have to have, before we can delegate anything, we have to have buy-in. And when you have a team, and whether it's a team of people outside your business or a team inside your business, they have to buy into you first, which is why your vision and your purpose are so important. They have to buy into you first, and then they will buy into your vision. So you need to be clear about who you are, and then they'll buy into you, and then they can take it and hook into the vision itself.
Yeah, because if you're not clear, how can they buy in?
Exactly. They can't.
It's not even possible.
No, it's not possible. And that's why you have a lot of teams that in businesses that everybody's kind of going off doing their own thing. If you have a team vision and there is something that isn't working properly, you can put the team together and say, okay, what's working? What isn't working? Do we need different team members in different roles? Do we need two new team members from the outside? But all of a sudden, everybody's working together rather than I'm over here doing this and Kim's over there doing that, and we're not really connecting. The next one is being stuck and having fear. First of all, you always walk with fear. There's no way around it. It just is what it is. It's kind of like I always relate it to, I have pavers throughout my backyard. I have no grass, I have raised flower beds, that kind of stuff. But I have pavers. And it's got that lining underneath to keep the weeds out. And lo and behold, even though that's been down there for 20 years, you still have weeds coming up through the pavers. Well, that's what fear is. It's just this little weed that pops up, and you have to pull it. You have to walk with it. And so how do we overcome fear? And there's some wonderful exercises in there, and also some great videos from other people of how they've overcome fear, and some really wonderful ways of being able to walk with fear. And then being stuck, we are trained as children to be stuck, because as a child, you're told, first of all, we're told no 400 times a day as an average. How many times do we hear yes? Very few. And then when we go into school, we're told to stand in line, to not speak, to raise our hand when we go to the bathroom, all those things. And then as we go into teenage years and our young adult years, that we take those mental thoughts that we have that we're not good, because we've been told no, and we've been told we shouldn't speak and all that. And that translates to us being thinking we're good enough, and all of the things that go along with being an insecure teenager. And we just carry those things right into adulthood. So here we are as an adult, and we get stuck on things. So how do we get unstuck? And there's some amazing ways, some mindfulness practices that you can do that will get you unstuck almost instantly. So that I talk about all of that. The 9th module is all about communication, both others, 3 kinds: internal, external, and persuasion communication. An interesting thing, and many people know this, but I'm just going to come out with it. 8% of the communication things we hear are from the words we speak. Only 8%. 38% is about our tonality and all how we're speaking. 55% is our body language. It has nothing to do with the words we're saying at all.
That's huge.
Isn't that huge? And so how you are viewing yourself is going to change how other people view you. So we have to learn how to speak to ourselves in a fashion where we're not putting ourselves down, are not feeling like we're good enough, and speaking that language. But then also, how do we express ourselves to someone else so they really hear us? And then the being persuasive, there's lots of great tools. Even if you're, obviously you can see how it would work in sales. But even if you've got a team member and you're trying to work on a concept, you want to get everybody on the same page. And so those tools talk about how to do all of that. And then the 10th module is listening. And probably of all the modules, if we can start by listening and learn how to truly listen. Really listen. I forget who we were talking. I think it was Laura, where, when you're talking to somebody that really hears you, because it's an unusual experience.
Yes, in this day and time, yes.
It's like, oh, I think they're really hearing what I'm saying.
Yes.
So this module talks about how to make sure that you are really listening. And by listening, you truly do save a lot of time and make it a better scenario for everybody involved. Self-management is number 11. And self-management is all about how to reduce stress, how to be organized, how to resolve problems, how to make decisions, and time management. And all of those pieces are critically important to being a good leader. And the mindfulness techniques in there will truly make a difference in every one of those areas. Just think, if you can reduce your stress, just think what that does for your bottom line. If you can be more organized, what does that do to your bottom line? How does it save you time? You take every one of those and you think about how you're going to save time and how you're going to make more money. And I can tell you that mindfulness practices on all these modules will do it. But in particular, on these 5 areas, it's huge. And then the last is legacy and gratitude. And I think in my life, since I started this journey in the first place, I have learned to express my gratitude, not just in the morning and not just at night, but throughout the day. I take time to either tell people I'm grateful, or to say thank you, or to just, have a thought that says, boy, I'm really grateful that this happened, or because it changes how you approach problems. It changes how you think about things. And a lot of times we don't celebrate our success. I mean, being grateful we had a success completely changes how, when a problem shows up, you're going to deal with it. And then legacy is really, okay, what is it that you want to leave this world? How do you want to leave it? What is the last chapter of your life's book? And what is the last chapter of your business, or if you go to another company, what does that last chapter look like for where you are as a Kickbutt leader? Because you really want to leave it better than where you were. So that's pretty much the course that's what the 12 modules are all about. When somebody completes the course, I bring everybody together and we do a group after you've finished the final chapter and gotten the certificate. I'll bring people together and we'll do a online group coaching and find out where you're going from here. And that's all included also.
So they actually are certified in Kickbutt leadership.
I have a certificate that you receive. Yes.
I want one for my wall.
Okay, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it's
put it in
you
your
can
office.
Put KBL after your name.
I love it. I love it. So, well, thank you for sharing though, like the modules, because I don't want anyone watching to not understand what you're offering. I just think that that's really an important thing. And knowing that it came from you learning these lessons and you practicing these things is huge. A lot of people put stuff together and they don't even really pay attention to what they're putting together. But you live this. You are a Kickbutt leader, and you help others become that. The class is for people who want to level up. And, there's high-level leaders that take it as well. There was a whole group of us that took the class while she was getting it ready, to give us, opportunity to give her feedback. And so I think that's another key too, is that when you have feedback, you can also know if you're onto something. And all of us believe that this is huge.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, I do practice all these things, and I totally believe that that's why I am where I am today. And I want to see others get there as well, because it's made such a difference, not just in my professional life, but my personal life too. I mean, this affects more than just your business associates. It affects your family, it affects your friends, people around you. So I hope you've enjoyed the sessions. I hope you've enjoyed. If you haven't gotten to see all of the people, please go back and watch them. I mean, we've had some incredible speakers come on with great thoughts. If you're not sure who to watch first, at the end of each day, we have a little wrap up like this where we talk about the different people that were on. So you can say, okay, well, I'm going to watch this one first, and then I'll watch the others next. So thank you so much. And we'll be back again for another Kickbutt Leadership Conference in December. So thank you so much for joining us. And I'm Coni Meyers with Kickbutt Leadership.
I'm Kim White with the My Sexy Business team.
And to check out the Kickbutt Leadership course, go to kickbuttleadership.com. And there's a couple of links for all of you. Thank you.
Thank all of you for attending.